Hi, everybody. Welcome to this interview that I'm doing today with What's Your Story with Jason Elkins from Tennessee. Lovely to have you with us, Jason.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
Now, Jason and I were connected through Bloggers Concentrated about just working together, and I came across Jason's work with 100 Cups Consulting. And why don't you, Jason, tell us a little bit about your background and a bit about you to start
Sure,
with.
thanks. The quick background, I have been in business development and some sort of a sales and marketing environment for a couple decades. It's scary to say that, those two words together, a couple decades in business, but I've been doing that for a while, and I started off in the staffing industry and was placing engineers and technology people into jobs, and just developed a really strong passion for how technology works, and went to work for a couple software companies and was learning how projects get put together and the power of people that know things and software, and migrated into a job on the website over time. And I was doing a lot of sales of web projects, but you only sell a website once every 5 or 6 years. And client development, as we know, takes time. And I felt like there were some missed opportunities, so I started developing, bringing in blogging. So that's part of how I met up with Dan and Rachel, and search engine optimization and newsletter marketing, and how important that was. And there was this new thing called social media that was coming up, and I started helping my website business by posting web projects that we were completing, and that was leading to new business and new projects. So I knew there was something special about the connection ability that social media had, and I had an opportunity to kind of develop that more. Unbeknownst to me, I was in the process of building what I was expecting to be a really strong infrastructure within the organization I was working, and I was expecting a raise and a promotion. And I walked in one day and they said, "Today we're going to have that meeting." I'm like, "Great." And they said, "Yes, this is your last day, and we're letting you go along with some other developers within the organization." And at that time, I really was seeing the rise of social media and digital marketing being the wave of the future, the wave of how marketing gets done. But I had a strong belief that relationships were going to be a key component, regardless of the digital side of the new platforms. So the one idea that I had at that time was I did not really want to go back to work for another organization. So I thought that I would try developing my own business that was focused on digital marketing and relationships. And I decided to have 100 cups of coffee in 100 days with 100 business people to see if I had enough knowledge and enough connections and enough stamina to develop my own business, helping businesses with their digital marketing and support.
And
so that's
it. That's the birth of 100 Cups Consulting, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And Dan and Rachel introduced us because they loved your 100 Cups idea, and thought that I also might like to talk to you about how you did it and maybe do something similar, which I did. I've just completed the Cuppa Challenge, which you've been talking me through, so it's been wonderful. Now, with me doing the Cuppa Challenge and having these cups with people, so many people said to me, "It's an amazing idea, having cups of coffee with people." And they wanted to know how I came up with the idea. And I told them, each of them, that it actually wasn't my idea, that I came across the concept with you. So I'll pass the question. How did you come up with the idea?
Well, there was years ago when my wife and I were first married, I had met a gentleman that was serving at a church and helping couples with financial advice. And he was an independent consultant. And I thought, well, that's interesting. What is that? Was in my early 20s and wanted to know more about business. And he had suggested that if you are willing to have breakfast with someone different every day of the week, you will never have to work for somebody again. And this concept had stuck with me, and that was, over a decade and a half ago that I had that conversation with him. But the idea of networking really took hold in me at that time. So part of how I would just build my business and sales was networking with other individuals. And when the start of this happened, I knew I needed a system. And I remember thinking back to that conversation, but I also knew that I couldn't afford to take someone to breakfast every day. So I'd been really fascinated with, I love coffee, first of all, and I had been fascinated with connecting with others over the coffee meeting, which always seemed like an easier meeting to have than let me come into your office and tell you about what I do. And that's really not how to build relationships anyway. You need to ask questions and listen and be engaging. And those types of things are what I wanted to kind of work into some sort of a plan. But I knew that if I didn't have some infrastructure, that trying to start a business would be impossible for me. I'm more of a relationship person and not super organized, but I knew that I could have a meeting a day with somebody different if I worked hard at that. So, and I didn't have an office space, so the coffee shop kind of took care of that. And it become kind of a cultural norm to ask someone to coffee or to a cuppa. Maybe that's a Kiwi tradition.
Yes.
Kiwi word. But that's kind of how that all was put together.
Oh, very
And the 100 Cups idea, what I realized quickly is that it could lead to so many good things, and we could talk more about that as well. But it didn't take long to see some of the magic happen as I was meeting with all these individuals.
Very, very cool. I definitely, I'm a believer. I've been through it. It's totally cool. And as I say, it does seem strange to me that people are so blown away by the concept because,
Right.
Going for coffee with someone isn't really like a totally blasé thing to do. I guess it's the simplicity of it, and people can see straight away how much of a good practice it would be in terms of networking and doing business.
Right.
But yeah, they were genuinely enthusiastic about this, like as if it was a new idea. Why do you think people felt that way? Like what was like an almost revolutionary feeling about this way of approaching people and doing things? Why do you think it blew people away so much?
I think there is a desire in a highly connected world to have a meaningful, authentic relationship and conversation with someone. When do we get a chance to sit down and talk to somebody for an hour and shut our phones off and really ask questions and pay attention? So there's part of that was a draw, I think. Someone just being willing to say, hey, let's go meet. And the purpose is to have coffee and get to know each other better. I'm not calling someone to say, come and have coffee with me and let me tell you what I'm doing. I'm asking them, come and have coffee with me and tell me what you're doing. And let me hear this. So part of it is just this, we're longing for some of these authentic connections and relationships again. And that in a world that's so digitally connected, we seem to be missing some of that. So I think that's part of it. And I also think that even though we know the things that we need to do in business or in life, like drink more water or get more sleep, there's something interesting about actually doing those things. So being willing to go and have a cup of coffee with somebody on a regular basis and tracking that sort of, and being willing to put into practice the things we know are good to do, like building relationships with others.
Yeah.
So, and simple ideas work. Complex steps and things, even on a program that we buy online, even if it's a good deal, getting through that program sometimes is challenging for us because we're so distracted.
Yeah.
Tracking 1 cup a day is a pretty easy thing to, so it seems attainable, I guess, is the other point of piece of that. it's doable. It is something that I can enact right now and complete. I think those are the things that I've connected up in my experiences that have made it interesting.
Yeah. Wonderful. Very cool. Wow. I'm so pleased to hear people like the idea. Hopefully they'll be getting out there and having more cups for each other. So
That's right.
the other thing the reason why people really liked this idea and wanted to do this cuppa challenge with me was because they too were wanting to meet more people and have those conversations about what they're doing, but they really struggled with traditional networking. They struggled with going to events that were specifically for networking, and there was a lot of felt like there was lots of do's and don'ts or etiquette or ways of doing that networking and stuff like that, and it all felt quite intimidating for some people. Mm-hmm. So what do you think, so why else do you think that people are kind of struggling with networking at the moment? We've talked about why people kind of are gravitating towards this. What is it about those traditional models of networking that are just falling short?
I think one thing that you mentioned, that there's a lot of rules involved. Mm-hmm. A lot of times those events, they want one marketing person and one insurance person and one real estate person. And so there's some limiting factors right off the bat. And sometimes, like in my business, half of my business in the beginning was coming from other marketing people.
Right.
So collaborating with individuals is a great networking tip. So we think of, we can't talk to that person because they're in my space, my business space. But in fact, sometimes those are some of the strongest relationships we can have, or with other professionals in that place. But to even more answer your question, I think that the idea of walking into a cold room when you're new and there's 30 people sitting around can be very intimidating. Whereas meeting somebody one-on-one, even if you're more introverted, get the booth that's a little further away from the door. There's ways to kind of manage your introvert or extrovert in the coffee environment, in a coffee shop environment. Yeah. So I think that's one of the reasons that traditional networking isn't as solid. And if I am let's say that I'm a mommy blogger and I'm selling products on my website that appeal to moms, and I go to a traditional marketing event and half of the people there are male, maybe that's not a great fit. Where with this, you can kind of pick and choose who you'd want to go meet with.
Right, of course, yeah. So you just kind of have to see, it's like a lucky dip to see who's there at the networking event.
Right.
And I think I also just struggled with the very, the kind of push aspect of networking events, because everyone's kind of got this time period to work the room. And it's, even that concept, that phrase, work the room, just makes me go, ugh, because I just...
Ron, that's a great point. And maybe it's because when I walk into that room, we've been taught to think it's all about me. What can I get from this exchange? Instead of going to coffee and saying, what can I give to this exchange?
Yeah.
So that's a great point.
Yeah, that's definitely it. And, the business cards start flying around and it's just...
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely have enjoyed, personally, myself, this doing connecting with people on this one-to-one level. So I think that's another reason why people really love the concept. Yeah. And so if there were people out there that were thinking that they wanted to start doing cuppas with people as a way of connecting, what do you think they need to know about doing this way of doing business? Because it's not, it is having a coffee with somebody, but it's more than that. There's a whole approach to this concept of meeting up with people and doing business this way. What do you think they need to keep in mind?
Yeah, great question. I think that there's a thought when we walk into a networking meeting or a business meeting that we have to hurry up and get to a point and move through that meeting and take our notes and collect and then figure out what to do with that information next. What system do I put them in? What's my next follow-up step, and those types of things. And there is some of that to this, but at the core, we're just there to build relationships and see how much we can help people, how much we can pour in to others. That's been the magic for me with this plan. And what happens is you become, because people are seeing you do this, that's the other component of kind of the process, is talking about this on social media. But as people see this process, they realize that you're out there doing something, and there's something interesting about successful, busy people. It attracts other people that want to be part of that. So I think the results take time. It's almost like a better diet plan, maybe, or a better money management plan. There isn't something you just snap your fingers and everything's better. These techniques take time, and kind of like building relationships with a loved one take time and effort. So does building relationships with other people that you're meeting, that there will be potential business. So I think, and I had talked to a gentleman that was in an accounting practice, and he had said, all I want to talk to is CEOs of big companies. And I said, how many of those are actual clients of yours? He said, well, it's always the CFO or a division manager. I'm like, well, go after those people. Go after a couple rungs below that person and work your way up and take time and be a resource, as opposed to going for a home run every single time. And even the home run that's not even the person that you want to meet. It looks good on paper that you met with the CEO, but did it really get you what you needed?
Yeah.
So I think the time aspect, and if you're not focused on serving others, this probably isn't a good plan for you. If that's not important to you, this probably isn't a good plan. Would you agree with that?
I totally agree. Yeah, it's definitely a service-orientated approach. So yeah, you definitely have to be someone who's interested in genuinely serving others.
Sure.
And what do you think people need to realize about this process in terms of listening? Because I think a lot of people I spoke to at these cuppa chats, the topic of listening came up, and I said, I've learned a lot about listening. I already thought I was a good listener to begin with, but I've noticed how, I don't know, it's quite a deep process to listen to somebody. And I learned a lot about listening, basically, from the Cuppa Challenge. What do you think it is about listening that's so important to building relationships?
I think that's really the core of building a relationship is connecting at a listening level. I have read, or in one of my organizational communication classes years ago, that if you speak 30% of the time and the other person speaks 70% of the time, they will feel better about you and feel like they know you better than if you give them all the information. And I always thought that was fascinating, that by not speaking all of the time, someone feels better about me.
Wow.
So not formulating, like not being too quick to jump in and say, oh, I know what you mean by that. Let me tell you my experience as well. Asking more questions, digging deeper, understanding, what your husband and kids enjoy, and what you like to do when you're not working, and how to connect with you at those types of levels, as opposed to just the business surface stuff.
Yeah.
If I wanted to have a technical manual written, and I know that you are a good writer, that may not be a perfect fit for you. But if I know your story and I know your heart, and someone wants to have a novel looked over that's about parenting and relationships and deep heart level stuff, you're a perfect fit for that. And I wouldn't know by just looking at a business card saying Bronwyn helps with writing projects. Right? It doesn't tell me any of that.
Of course. Yeah, because we've had those deeper level discussions, so my interest areas and things like that. That makes sense.
That's right. Yeah.
And so I felt that it was quite key for me to go through this Cuppa Challenge process with you. We checked in weekly to talk about how I was doing and what obstacles I was facing. and what unexpected insights I was gathering as I went along. And I think it's really important to have that person, a coach. Oh, I think it's important to have a coach anyway, but just someone,
Sure.
someone to decant to your experiences. And so if people wanted to know more about how they could work with you and more about 100 Cups Consulting, what's the best way for people to get in touch, and what can you offer people around that?
Thanks for asking me that question. What I do for business right now is I coach organizations on two facets. One is their digital marketing process and social media, and I do a lot of conceptual stuff and strategy around that. And the other is coach people through this process. So if they want to reach out to me, they can contact me at jason@100cups.coffee. .coffee is a new top level domain, and of course I had to have that.
Of course.
So that's a great way to connect with me. And they can also light me up on Facebook, which is one of the primary areas where I talk about this process, and I post a lot of information about the 100 Cups thing, and that's facebook.com/Jason.Elkins. And I would love to accept friend requests from people, and more New Zealandites would be wonderful to have as connections. So
and so what do you do to help people who are interested in doing these cups with people? What does your coaching kind of touch on?
A great question. There's a lot of questions about who do I go after, and what is the process when I get these types of responses, or how do I think through what the follow-up process is? Because what I found is good follow-up is really key to the program. Sharing ideas that can help somebody and not waiting too long to do that. Also, as you've done, I take pictures of folks and I post them on my social media and tell more about them. So it's the truth is it's always about somebody else, but really it's about us a little bit too, and what we're doing, right?
Yeah.
But it's a way we can talk about ourselves without having to talk about ourselves every day.
Yeah.
So I kind of help them through what tools can I use, how do I get the good meeting started, what are the follow-up questions, how do I close a meeting, and those types of things, as well as a lot of the stuff that we talked about were a little bit off the grid. In if people were asking you about how to pitch a project back to them, we can walk through what's happening during those meetings and how to generate some business from them as well. So, and we talk about encouragement a lot. You and I do. You've been very encouraging on this program, and I like to think that I've been encouraging with you as well. So sometimes we just need that push. That's why I have a business coach. So we just need somebody to help motivate us and keep us on task, and that's part of what they're getting as well.
Yeah, I've struggled to trust a coach that didn't have a coach. Actually, I think you got to be walking your talk in that sense, and never think that you know everything, because we're constantly in that learning process. So
yeah, that's right.
I have to say, if anyone did want to do it as a challenge, it will certainly teach you a lot. But you don't have. I'm just a challenge type person, but it doesn't have to be 100 cups in 100 days, and it doesn't have to be a cup a day for a month. It could just be part of your ongoing business process, right? To just have cups with people. So, but the pressure can sometimes kind of inspire some action sometimes, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm very proud of how diligent you've been with getting people to come and meet with you. And I even saw one day you had the picture of you kind of holding your face. I have one more.
Yeah.
I just need one more. Come on.
Yep. That was
seemed to turn out well, right?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, no, it always did. And that was a funny night. But yeah, no, I always someone always came through and always had a cup. So I was very fortunate to make it through and have 30 cups for the 30 days of June. So it's been an amazing process. I'm really looking forward to you and I continuing to work around together around this project.
Yes.
And you've given your details, and when I post this interview, I'm sure since you've clicked on the link and you're watching it now, you've seen that Jason's email address is there and also his website. So do touch base with him, send him a friend request. As I say, he's branching out international contacts outside, which is just awesome. And yeah, I just want to say thank you again for coming up with this concept. And I really do. And again, it's so simple, but it really is revolutionary in terms of the way that we do business and the importance of building relationships. So thank you for sharing today about your journey and about 100 Cups Consulting.
Thank you very much, Bronwyn. It's been a pleasure working with you through this. I'm looking forward to continuing that.
Thank you.